The wine investment industry has a very polished sales pitch. They'll tell you fine wine returns 15% a year. They'll tell you it doesn't crash when the stock market crashes. They'll tell you the ultra wealthy have been doing this for decades, and now, thanks to the modern platforms, you can too. It all sounds like someone finally letting you in on a secret the rich have been keeping to themselves. But here's what they won't tell you: the overwhelming majority of people who invest in wine lose. Not because they picked the wrong bottles, but because the entire structure of wine investing is designed to make money for the people selling it to you, not for you. Let me show you exactly how it works. The story goes like this: fine wine is a physical asset. It's rare, it gets better with age, lower demands from collectors, especially in Asia and the Middle East, keeps pushing prices up. Unlike stocks, it doesn't collapse overnight because of a Federal Reserve announcement or a tweet from a billionaire. And historically, the numbers actually back some of this up. Long-term studies of the fine wine market, especially Bordeaux's Premier Cruise, shows real annual returns of around 4% over more than a century. Better than gold, better than art, better than real estate in many periods. On top of that, during the 2008 financial crisis, while stock portfolios were losing 40% of their value, fine market prices barely moved. So the pitch isn't completely made up. There is a real asset here with real historical returns and a real argument for using it as a hedge against market volatility. But that pitch is built for one type of investor, and that investor is not you. And it is almost certainly not the person who saw an ad on Instagram and signed up for a wine investment platform in 15 minutes. Let's talk about what wine actually returns versus what stock returns. Over the last 100 plus years, premium wine averaged around 3.7% annually in real terms. Stocks average 5.2% globally. US stocks alone average 6.5%. Now, here's why the gap matters more than it sounds. If you invest $10,000 at 3.7% for 30 years, you end up with around $29,000. At 6.5% for the same 30 years, you end up with $66,000. That's not a small difference. That's a difference between two outcomes that don't even look like the same financial life. And that's the best case wine number. That's the headline figure, before cost, before fees, before the reality of what it actually takes to hold wine as an investment. The actual net return, once you strip everything away, is considerably lower. And that's what the platforms advertising wine investment don't lead with. Trap number one: the cost structure nobody advertises. Fine wine has to be stored in controlled conditions: temperature, humidity, light. You can't just put it in your garage. Professional storage facilities charge ongoing annual fees that come directly out of your return. Then add insurance because you're holding a physical, fragile, stealable asset that absolutely needs coverage. Then add transaction fees when you eventually sell. By the time you've accounted for all of it, that 3.7% return starts looking a lot more like 1 or 2% in practice. Trap number two: you can't actually exit when you need to. Try selling a case of wine on a Tuesday morning when the market turns and you need liquidity fast. You can't just click sell. You need a buyer, you need a broker or an auction house. You need time. Wine is one of the most illiquid investments you can hold, and illiquidity isn't just inconvenient, it's generally dangerous when you need money and can't get to it. Trap number three, and this one is the most serious: the fraud problem. The fine wine market is flooded with counterfeits, fake labels, fraudulent vintages, recorked bottles sold as originals. In 2013, a man named Ruby Kurniawan was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison after selling tens of millions of dollars worth of fake fine wine, not to amateurs, but to some of the most experienced collectors in the world. People who had been buying fine wine for decades couldn't tell the difference. If experts with decades of experience get fooled, what chance does a first time retail investor have? Trap number four: the platform problem. Many of the modern wine investment apps targeting ordinary investors take significant fees on the way in and on the way out. They present polished returns that don't reflect what you'd actually net after they're cut. Some are structured so that the platform profits regardless of whether you do. And the cruelest trap of all, some investors, faced with years of holding costs, no buyer in sight, and mounting frustration, just drink it, which is generally a great decision for dinner, but it is a complete write off for your portfolio. Here's the honest truth about wines as an investment. It can work for a small specific group of people with deep market knowledge, the right networks, and enough capital to absorb years of holding costs without needing a return. Fine wine is a legitimate alternative asset. But for an average person who discovers wine investing through a social media ad, signs up for a platform, and expects market beating returns, it's a trap. An expensive, illiquid, fraud prone trap dressed up in premium packaging. The wine investment industry isn't selling you a financial product, it's selling you an identity. The feeling of being the kind of person who has a wine portfolio, and they charge heavily for that feeling. Before you put a single dollar into any alternative investment, wine, art, watches, whiskey, anything, strip away the lifestyle branding and ask one question: what is my actual net return after every single cost? That number will tell you everything you need to know. Next week, I'm breaking down another investment that millions of people put their money into every year, convinced they're being smart. And the math tells a very different story. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if someone you know has been eyeing a wine investment platform, send them this first. See you next week.